40 years ago, David Bowie put on another new face and took over the world once again. I'm Bill. This is Geezerology. Let's dance.
Put on your red shoes and dance the blues. Let's dance to the song they're playing on the radio.
It was 1983, and David Bowie, erstwhile Major Tom, Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane, the Thin White Duke, the Man Who Fell to Earth, and Our Man in Berlin, decided the time had come for a new role, legitimate, no-holds-barred rock and roll superstar. But first, a little backstory. Over a decade after his eponymous debut, Bowie's flitting between the mainstream and underground had hardly left a stone unturned. Throughout the 1970s, he stood as the cultish alienated hero and hero to the alienated, thumbing his nose at a sort of pop music hurdle that had impeded others in his field. Despite his nonconformist approach, however, he hadn't been a stranger to hits along the way. For instance, Rebel Rebel, Changes, Diamond Dogs, Fame, Golden Years, Young Americans, and Heroes. Most recently, Ashes to Ashes and Fashion from the 1980 platinum album Scary Monsters and Super Creeps suggested that Bowie was warming to the notion of taking on a more marketable sound. On his own terms, of course. The turn of the decade hinted at an artistic restlessness combined with a desire for a rising profile. Several projects on stage and screen, notably The Elephant Man and Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, kept Bowie busy post-Scary Monsters, to say nothing of his 1981 alliance with Queen on the mega-selling Under Pressure. But there's a difference between being a well-regarded musical artist and someone whom everybody everywhere, that is, everybody everywhere, hears and knows. Bowie long seemed above this kind of success, as it was sure to halt any artistic appetites he needed to indulge in. Wrong. Reading the dawn of the go-go 80s zeitgeist, he struck hard and fast. At some point in the early 1980s, Bowie decided to make one last violent push for the global megastardom he'd been batting at since his first hit. In typical fashion, he set himself to the task with steadfast determination. Bowie signed with EMI, ditching his longtime label RCA on the grounds that they'd failed to properly market his supremely unmarketable late 1970s LPs. He dumped most of his regular collaborators and put together an expansive new team. He rudely brushed aside, if only temporarily, longtime producer Tony Visconti. Instead, he hired Nile Rogers, major domo of Chic, the disco soul outfit ruling dance clubs at the turn of the decade. This Bowie-Rogers relationship has been one of much discussion. Some had remarked in advance, that would be me, that their pairing was the most mercantile of partnerships. But I'd be mostly wrong. The outcome of their collaboration, Let's Dance, posited that there was much more happening between the two men than avarice. Each pushed the other toward the limits of his imagination during the 3-week incubation period for the forthcoming album. This album is the culmination of Bowie's absolute pop awareness and application of his abilities, married to Rogers' supremely controlled dance sensibilities. Rogers called the 17-day sessions the easiest he ever worked on, and the results were undeniable. The title track, Let's Dance, mixed brass, bluesy guitar riffs, courtesy of a fast-rising newcomer, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and snapping percussion. Its forward-thinking, funky, irresistible momentum exceeds even Bowie's previous urban pop masterpieces, Young Americans and Fashion. The selection swagger,
I feel like a sailboat adrift on the sea. It's a brand new day. If you say run, I'll run with you. If you say
Flirt,
Never gonna fall for walks beside me, walks on by, gets me to the church on time.
or ruminate.
Turn the holy picture, so thy face the wall.
Out of the 8 entries on the album, half were released as singles between March and November 1983. Let's Dance, China Girl, Modern Love, and Without You. As a songwriter and vocalist, Bowie hadn't lost his touch. Everything on Let's Dance is biting, bright, and immersed in a rhythmic, melodic, rock, pop, R&B hybrid ideal for radio play. Let's Dance managed to smooth out Bowie's mercurial eccentricities without totally expunging them, then dropped him dead center into the I Want My MTV era. Overnight, Let's Dance collected silver, gold, and platinum certifications the world over, securing its status as one of the definitive records of the 1980s. And unforgettably, its success sent its creator out on the 8-month Serious Moonlight concert tour that logged 96 shows in 16 countries. After all that success, what could possibly go wrong? Well, there's a flip side to massive success. While Let's Dance introduced the great chameleon to a whole new audience who either were unaware of or had ignored him previously, many longtime fans who'd paid attention to what Bowie had been up to, who concurred that this ain't rock and roll, this is genocide, concluded that their man, had sold out. Selling out, whatever that means, was a big thing until the 2000s. It's a moot concept these days. So who cared? The important thing was that in 1983, Bowie had finally crossed the commercial threshold to massive success. Even better, he had come out of the experience unscathed and artful as he ever was. Or had he? After Serious Moonlight, Bowie's serious problem for the rest of the 1980s was a combination of a loss of creativity and confidence. The LPs that saw out the decade, Tonight, Never Let Me Down, and Tin Machine, were among the worst, artistically and sales-wise, of his career. That was the bad news. The good news was that a significant amount of great to exceptional work was on the horizon all the way through 2016. But that intriguing back half of Bowie's career is a story for another day. I hope you enjoyed this look back at David's gargantuan 1983. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments. We'll see you soon.
Sing the old man blues. They're trading your Playboy for some hush puppy shoes. One more time.